Hi everyone and welcome back to Pokémons. Today we're making an ultimate list of the best alternate arts from the Sword and Shield era. We're gonna take a look at the current price, what they did in the previous year, and also take a look at their PSA report. But before we start the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below which card from the Sword and Shield era you are collecting right now. By doing so, you automatically enter our first 100 subs giveaway. Without further ado, let's roll the intro. Let's start the video with 6 Sword and Shield alternate arts under $30. I made a separate category for these cards because I think some of these cards deserve a little bit more attention. They have pretty good artwork and that's why I wanted to share these cards with you. First of all, we got the Beedrill V from Astral Radiance. Beautiful card in my opinion, with a current value of $20, decreased $33 over the previous year. And when we take a look at the PSA report, we can see that this card has 1600 PSA 10s and has a 61 PSA 10 percentage. Next up, we got Arceus V from Brilliant Stars. The current value of this card is $24, decreased 40% over the last year. This card has almost 3000 copies in PSA 10, which makes a percentage of 60% in total. Next up, we get the Empoleon V from Battle Styles. Current price of this card is $27, decreased 33% over the last year, and has a total of 1100 PSA 10 copies. Then we have the Origin Form Dialga from Astral Radiance, a current value of $26 and decreased 44% over the last year. This card has a total of 2000 copies in a PSA 10, which makes a percentage of 55% in total. And then the next card from Evolving Skies, my favorite card from the list under $30, is the Noivern V, with a current market value of $28. I think this card from Evolving Skies, this artwork is phenomenal. This card decreased 27% over the last year. However, we saw a big rebound at $22 in, let's say, December 2023. This card has 1500 copies in a PSA 10 and a total PSA report of 2700 cards. Last but not least, we have the Mew V from Fusion Strike with a current value of $28 and decreased also 37% over the last year. This card has a total PSA report of 4500 cards and a PSA 10 report of 2195 cards. So if you make a little recap of the cards under $30, I think these 6 cards are pretty good to add to your binder collection. I don't think that adding a PSA 10 version of these cards to your collection is necessary. I also don't think it's the best investment today. However, I am thinking about picking up a Noivern in a PSA 10 because I just think that this card is phenomenal, the artwork is phenomenal, and this card deserves way more recognition. I also think that some of these cards reach their bottom price. They will go up in value in the upcoming months, especially the Noivern, the Beedrill V, and the Mew V from Fusion Strike. But in the end, I think these 6 cards are amazing to add to your binder collection. Next up, we've got the cards above $30. We start off with the Galarian Articuno V from Chilling Reign with a current value of $40. Decreased 14% over the last year and has a total PSA report of 1100 PSA 10 cards. Next up, we get the Galarian Zapdos V from Chilling Reign with a current market value of $41, decreased 30% over the last year. And today this card has a PSA 10 report of 8500 cards, which makes a 60% PSA 10 ratio. Then we have the Zeraora V from Chilling Reign with a current market value of $43, decreased 35% over the last year. And this card has a PSA 10 percentage of 64.45. Next up, we've got the Galarian Moltres V from Chilling Reign with a current market value of $118, decreased 16% over the last year, and this card has a total PSA 10 report of 3000 cards in total. And then the top chase card from the Chilling Reign set, the Blaziken VMAX, with a current market value of $178. This card didn't change in value over the last year and has a total PSA report of 2600 PSA 10 cards, which is pretty low in comparison with other top chase cards from the Sword and Shield era like Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, and Lost Origin. The next set we're gonna take a look at is Evolving Skies, starting off with the Lithium V with a current market price of $51. This card decreased 21% over the last year and has a total PSA 10 report of 2600 cards, which makes a 59% PSA 10 ratio. Next up, we've got the Glacium V with a market price of $54, decreased 15% over the last year, but found some support at that $50 mark over the last months. So I think $50 is a pretty good price for this card. If we take a look at the PSA report, we can see that this card has a PSA 10 total of 2700 cards, which makes a 53% PSA 10 ratio. Then we have the Sylvian V, also found some support at that $50 mark over the last couple of months. Current market price is $56 and decreased 12% over the last year, but had that rebound at that support of $50. This card has a PSA 10 report of 2,900 cards and a 56% PSA 10 ratio. Next up, one of my favorite cards from Evolving Skies, but also from the Sword and Shield era, with a current market value of $77, decreased almost 20% over the last year. The Rayquaza V from Evolving Skies, beautiful card. If we take a look at the PSA report of this card, we can see that this card reached 4,000 copies in a PSA 10 and 7,000 copies in total from PSA, which makes a 57% PSA 10 ratio. Next up, we've got the Umbreon V, priced at around $88 today, decreased 12% over the last year, and has a 3,500 PSA 10 cards in total today. Next up, we got my favorite card from Evolving Skies, but I also think from the Sword and Shield era. It's the Dragonite V. Why? Because I think the artwork is phenomenal and Dragonite is also my favorite Pokemon ever. Current market price of this card is $98. Didn't change in value over the last year. Found some support at the $90 mark from August 2023. And I'm definitely thinking about picking up a PSA 10 card from the Dragonite V. If we take a look at the PSA report, we can see that this card has a PSA 10 total of 4,100 cards and a total PSA report of 7,200 cards. We're moving to the top chase cards from Evolving Skies. Next up, we've got the Sylvian VMAX, priced at around $141, increased 3% over the last year. I think this is the first card from the alternate arts that increased in value over the last year. If we take a look at the PSA report, we can see that this card has a total of 6,000 PSA 10 copies and a total PSA report of almost 8,000 copies. Then we have the Leafeon VMAX with a current market price of $160. Didn't change in value over the last year and has a total PSA 10 report of 4,800 cards and a PSA 10 percentage of 75. Followed by the Rayquaza VMAX with a market price of $160, decreased 15% over the last year, and this card has a PSA 10 report of 6,750 cards and a total of 9,000 PSA cards. And then the biggest chase card from Evolving Skies, but I also think from the Sword and Shield era, the Umbreon VMAX, the Moonbreon, with a current market price of $582, increased 3% over the last year. If we take a look at the PSA report, we can see that this card has 10,000 copies in a PSA 10, which is absolutely mind-blowing, and a total PSA report of 13,000 copies. This makes a PSA 10 ratio of 75%, which is pretty high in my opinion, and also the fact that this card has 10,000 copies in a PSA 10 is absolutely insane. Another fun fact from Evolving Skies is that all the cards we discussed above that $100 mark do have a PSA 10 ratio of 75%. We move on with battle styles. We have the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX with a current market price of $52, decreased 27% over the last year, and has a total PSA 10 report of 1,300 copies. Then we have the big chase card from Battle Styles. I like this card very much. The Tyranitar V, the Sleeping Tyranitar with a current market value of $91, decreased 9% over the last year and has a total PSA 10 report of 2,900 copies and a total PSA report of 5,000 cards, which makes a ratio of a 58% PSA 10 copies. Next up, we've got Fusion Strike with the Mew VMAX. Current market price of this card is $57, decreased 36% over the last year, and has a total PSA report of 2,679 cards. Also from Fusion Strike, the Espion VMAX with a current market value of $126, decreased 15% over the last year and has a total PSA 10 report of 4,769 cards, which is pretty high, and a total PSA report of 7,170 cards. The big chase card from Fusion Strike is a Gengar VMAX with a current market value of $208, increased 6% over the last year. This card definitely found some support at that $180 mark. Current market price $208. This card has a PSA 10 report of 5,200 cards and a total PSA report of 8,400 cards, which makes a ratio of 61.85% PSA 10 copies. From Astral Radiance, we get the beautiful Machamp V with a current market value of $82, decreased 25% over the last year. I think $75 to $80 is a pretty valid market price for this card today. This card has a total PSA 10 report of 2,200 cards and a total PSA report of 3,600 cards, which makes a PSA 10 ratio just below that 60%. Next up from Lost Origin, we got the Aerodactyl V with a current market value of $86, decreased 29% over the last year, and has a total PSA 10 report of just below 2,000 cards and a total PSA report of 4,000 cards, which makes that the PSA 10 percentage is just below 50%, one of the lowest PSA 10 ratios we saw from every alternate art from the Sword and Shield era. And then of course the big chase card from Lost Origin, the Giratina V, with a current market value of $260, found some market support at that $220 mark, but decreased 21% over the last year. This card has a PSA 10 report of 3,500 cards and a total PSA report of 7,500 cards, which makes a PSA 10 ratio of 47%, pretty low. From Brilliant Stars, we got the ultimate chase card, the Charizard V, with a current market value of $117, decreased 32% over the last year, and it could be that this card found some support at that $100 mark, a psychological level, but this card has a PSA 10 report of 8,000 copies and a total PSA report of 14,000 copies, which is absolutely mind-blowing. So holding on to a PSA 10 version of the biggest chase card from Brilliant Stars is not so impressive as if we compare it to sets like Lost Origin, Evolving Skies, Silver Tempest. Brilliant Stars with Charizard here has definitely some big numbers in the PSA reports. Last but not least, the ultimate chase card from Silver Tempest. We got the Lugia V with a current market value of $121. Previous year, this card was almost worth $200, but it came down 35% over the last year. PSA 10 report from the Lugia V shows us that this card has a PSA 10 number of 7,100 cards and a total PSA report of 11,000 cards, which makes a PSA 10 ratio of 60%. So, to do a general recap, today I am looking at the alt arts under $30, which are the Beedrill V, the Noivern V from Evolving Skies, and then the Mew V from Fusion Strike. In the group above that $30 mark, I am looking at the Rayquaza V. The Lugia V from Silver Tempest could also be an option because I think Silver Tempest, but this card specific, will gain some interest and some popularity in the long term. Lugia will always be a big Pokemon, and the artwork from this card is absolutely amazing. Maybe it could also be the moment to pick up a raw version of the Charizard V from Brilliant Stars, which found a support at that $100 mark. But the three cards I am definitely looking at are the Aerodactyl V and the Giratina V from Lost Origin, because they have an interesting PSA report, and I think the artwork is phenomenal. I also think that the set Lost Origin will gain popularity and interest over the upcoming years. And last but not least, I'm looking at the Dragonite V from Evolving Skies, just because I think priced at around that $80 mark is absolutely amazing for these beautiful cards. And that's it for today. Let me know in the comments down below which alt art from Sword and Shield era you are collecting today. Leave a like and subscribe. By doing so, you automatically enter our 100 subs giveaway. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.